Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us from all around the world. I'm John Lieberman, and today we're in for a very special conversation about how online education can create opportunity and bring hope to students, even in the face of displacement, conflict, and uncertainty. And I'm honored to be joined by Shai Reshef, the president of the University of the People, and Manal Stulgaitis, the higher education lead at UNHCR. It's good to see both of you.
Thanks.
Hi, John.
So we are here because University of the People and UNHCR have recently announced a new partnership that will expand access to free IBM Skills Build professional certificates to 5,000 refugees and displaced learners worldwide, focused on these huge areas of data analytics, cybersecurity. Manal, I want to start with you. Why is this so important right now?
Thanks, John. And it's really a pleasure to be here. I think I would actually like to kick off by saying a couple of things before I get into, sort of thinking about the global picture of refugee higher education and the state of play and why the partnership with University of the People is so important at this moment in time. We just wrapped up what's called the Global Refugee Forum, which is it's the progress review, which is actually a midterm moment. Between every 4 years, we have a Global Refugee Forum. And this is where the biggest, most important, most impactful commitments in the refugee response world are announced, where good practices are developed and discussed, where partnerships are often forged. And we were immensely pleased to have University of the People not only present at the event, throughout the event, but making the announcement about this pledge, about relating to the access to the IBM certificate. So let me step back then and say, where we stand from UNHCR's perspective right now is that of the 122 million people who are displaced worldwide, 42 million of them are refugees under the UNHCR mandate. In 2019, we, UNHCR, with all of our partners worldwide, made a collective commitment to increase access to higher education for refugees. Why did we do that? Well, because at that moment in time, we knew that approximately 1%, only 1% of refugee youth had access to higher education. Now, since 2019, today we see ourselves just kicking off 2026. And last year, we announced a significant jump in access to higher education, bringing it to 9%. So a huge amount of work has been done to raise this figure. So there's two things I want to say about that. One is that University of the People has been present in that conversation from the beginning. And so while this may be the first time that we've announced a formal partnership, we have been in dialogue for many years. And very, very importantly, University of the People has been sharing and exchanging with us refugee enrollment data throughout the University of the People offering. So not limited to this IBM certificate, but throughout the degree programs. And that contribution, really fundamental contribution that they've been making to making their enrollment data respective to displaced people available to us has been invaluable. And so I really do want to recognize that the partnership extends way before this announcement. And then I'll just wrap up this particular intervention by saying that as we set the goal to achieve 15% of refugee youth enrolled in higher education by the year 2030, that was sort of a pie in the sky dream when we set that goal in 2019. It was, let's set it as high as we think is even possibly feasible, but it was hugely ambitious. Now we see ourselves at 9%. We are getting there. But I don't want to say that the pressure is off. I mean, there is still a lot of hard work to be done, and that's why this partnership is so important.
Well, and Shai, Manal brings up a very good point about University of the People being there from the beginning, but also recently, you making the pledge to educate 35,000 refugees by 2030. Why is this so significant, Shai, both this partnership and also the commitment to educate all of these refugees?
Well, University of the People was born or was established in order to open the gates of higher education for those who have no other alternative and to give the opportunity for people to have a better future. Refugees are the population in the world that need most this opportunity because, you know, people go, leave their countries, forced to leave their countries, whether they are refugees or internally displaced, they leave their homes. And we tend to believe that after a year, 2 years, 3 years, they will go back to their homes. They will not. I learned actually from UNHCR that the average time refugees spend in refugee camp is over 20 years. So actually, it's a generation after generation that people stay there. The only way to get out of it is education. And we believe that when we opened the University of the People, we felt that refugees are the people who need us most. That's why we emphasize our work with refugees and our partnership with UNHCR because we are aligned with our mission to help refugees, and no one in the world helps refugees as much as the UNHCR, and we feel that we're doing our share in higher education. So that's why we originally committed to have 25,000 students by the year of 2035. Now we moved it up to 35,000 students by 2030. We have already 34,000 refugees and internally displaced, but we are talking here only about refugees to have 35. And at the same time, we said, let's take 5,000 students to study with us through IBM. And IBM is very important, but maybe, you know what, maybe we'll talk about the IBM separately, but we feel that every opportunity should be given to refugees.
So I'm going to ask the same question of each of you because I know you each come face to face with a lot of, you know, different types of learners and a lot of refugees. So I want to start with you, Manal. This program in particular focuses on the IBM Skills Build certificates for data analytics and cybersecurity. Why do you believe these skills are so important for displaced learners right now? I'll start with you, Manal, and then go to Shai.
Sure. Thanks for the question. What I can say that I think is really important to note here is that when UNHCR began our work in higher education for refugees, this was 30 years ago when our scholarship, our bespoke full ride scholarship program for refugees kicked off. Over that time, the program changed very little up until the last handful of years where we really see and feel, and most importantly, hear from refugee youth themselves that the most important part of their education is, you know, in addition to all of the benefits in terms of personal development and independence and agency and we can go on, is that link to livelihoods. And so what is really interesting and compelling to me about this IBM certificate is two things. One is that it gives access to skills linked to fields of study where we wouldn't necessarily think that displaced learners have access to, have ready inroads to the job market, et cetera. And yet these are very high demand skills, right? Very high demand certificates in fields of employment. The second piece is that it leads to, or creates an opportunity, I should say, to build on it, right? So even though this is a certificate, it's not a full degree program, University of the People has made it very clear that it can be folded in or it can be rolled into accumulating credits that lead to a full degree program. Now, the most fantastic thing about that is that young people, the young people that our team works with every day will tell you, you know, some people of course are going to tell you that they want to study Arabic literature for the rest of their lives and they're going to do a PhD program, and that is absolutely priceless. But many, many more are going to say, I need to do something that allows me to earn money to support my family and my community as soon as possible. And so the combination of being able to do a certificate that offers you the potential of putting those skills to work right away and an opportunity to potentially, you know, parlay that into a degree in the future, I mean, it's fantastic.
I can't agree more with Manal. our students, and especially the refugees among them, coming to us in order to have a better future. They want a job. We want them to be well-rounded individuals with critical thinking, knowledge about the world, etc. But they come to us in order to have a better future. Now, our degrees that we offer are all relevant for the job market. But if you study business administration, computer science, or health science, it takes you 4 years before you get a degree and you can go to the job market. The beauty about the IBM certificates is that we give them the tools that they need in order to go to work right away. They're ready for the job market, and at the same time, they accumulate credit toward their degrees. So after the certificate, it can take very short time to complete. They can decide whether they go to work, continue their studies toward a degree because they already get credit through their studies for the IBM certificate, or do both, go work and continue their studies. So we think that it's an amazing opportunity to everyone, and especially for refugees, which really need the opportunity right away.
Yeah, and there's been debate over the years back and forth about online education, but I can't imagine a better vehicle, Manal, than flexible online education to really help these refugee learners who in life face enormous challenges, whether it's connectivity issues, language barriers. You mentioned uncertainties about the future. So I'm curious, Manal, about your thoughts about this kind of this mode of learning and how it's flexible, it's online, it's accessible.
Yeah. So I want to be the first to admit that I am not the digital higher education specialist in our team. We have several experts who work in that area. Shai's entire team works in that area. Our head of education has a strong background in online and distance and digital ed tech. But I've been around long enough to know that the most important things, at least from my vantage point, is that we find a solution for all the different types of situations that young people who are in displacement and living in and affected by conflict and fragility face. And of course, it's a no-brainer that for a huge chunk of those people, quality online or digital access to higher education is either the only way, and I'm sure Shai will talk about the segment of individuals who are affected by that way, or it's the most suitable way because they've got other obligations because of where they're located, what have you, or it's their preferred way, right? I mean, this is the other thing, is that it's not always the last resort that you study online. Lots of young people would prefer to do it that way. And so I think that the young people that we work with should have the choice to make, just the way anyone else does.
And Shai, you often talk about designing programs to meet learners where they are. And I think this is a great example of that.
It is, because, well, first of all, let me start with a side comment which tells a lot about online learning. In the US, over half of the students by now study at least partially online or fully online. So online is growing dramatically because it is convenient, because it has quality, and because students prefer it to give them the flexibility of, when you study, how you study, so giving them the choice. Refugees need it as well, and even more so, either because they don't have access to physical universities. You might be stuck somewhere there is no physical university, either because they work or they do other things and they still need the education, but they need the flexibility. It might be women who raise children, and only when the children are asleep they can study. So we give them all this flexibility. Remember also that we are tuition free. The affordability is as important, because in most parts of the world, education is very expensive. And in many parts of the world, refugees are not welcome to the local universities. We come and say, hey, you're all welcome to study with us. And we can suit the program, and our program is suited to the learners wherever they are. We are not only that we are online, we are asynchronous. You don't need broadband in order to study with us. So with every laptop or cell phone, you can, and wherever you are, you can study with us. You can log in, you can log on the internet twice a week. You don't need to be online all the time. So all this is very relevant for refugees and for many of them. And as Manal said, it's not necessarily for everyone. Some people cannot study online. That's okay. But for those who can, we are an amazing opportunity.
Shai, I wanted to ask you one thing I enjoy the most is hearing the student stories and reading them online, hearing you tell them, because I think it's one thing to say what could be, but it's another thing to say what is and the impact. And one example I'd like you to talk about, Shai, is, I believe University of the People has more than 5,400 Afghan women studying. And why is this such a powerful example of what, access to quality education can unlock?
Well, the Afghan women is a unique case because the reason that they cannot study is whether it is cultural, religious, or political, but women, when the Taliban took over, they banned education, girls' education, and especially higher education. Women cannot go to universities. And we felt like it's unbelievable that half of the population cannot attend higher education. So we said we are going to open the gates, and we spread the word that Afghan women are able to study with us. And by now we have 5,400 women in Afghanistan who are hiding because they are not allowed to do that by the regime. So they are hiding and studying remotely with us for a full degree. What we found extremely unique is that by now we already have a few graduates. We start having graduates, people who started with us, and Afghan women who graduated. And we did a survey, and 60% of them are working remotely, still hiding at home, but working remotely as a programmers with international companies. You hear these stories and you say, that's the reason. Well, that's the reason to help them, but that's the reason for the creation of UoPeople. So it is. And we have students who left one country, moved to another country, and for them, University of the People is a university in a box. They take it wherever refugees move from one country to the other, and the university walks with them. So, yeah.
And Manal, you cracked a big smile while Shai was telling some of those stories. What's going through your mind?
I mean, so many things, but the one I would probably focus on is to also remember that it's not only Afghan women who are having that experience, right? We hear the same testimony from many young women who for religious or social or familial reasons are either prevented or strongly discouraged from pursuing their higher education. And so in some cases, their only opportunity is to do it on the side, maybe in hiding, maybe not, but certainly in ways that are less obtrusive or less consuming than a full all day, conventional university program. So I think there are, like we said before, the point here is to ensure that more displaced young people have access to quality higher ed, whatever shape or form that comes in, as long as they earn and get access to that recognized credential at the end and can find a way to put it to use, then, I think we all agree that this is incredibly impactful and this is what we're trying to do.
Add to it, I think that the beauty about IBM partnership is that we offer instant opportunity to the students, 5,000 refugees, 5,000 of them. And listen, even though we are a university, and as a university, we want all of our students to complete their studies and to go on and on. If we have a student to take this certificate and decide to leave us and go work with the skills that we gave them, we've done our job. We're very happy. So it's a great opportunity, and I hope that as many students, as many refugees will take this opportunity and make use of it, because it's probably for many of them, it's a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So, yeah.
Yeah, Manal, before we wrap up, I want to ask you, because it seems like a no-brainer that everybody would want to get involved. So what role can other institutions, whether it's universities or tech companies or governments, what role can they play in expanding programs like this and in helping? I would think money might be number one.
Well, I mean, to be really honest, that is, so first of all, thank you, because that's exactly the question that I wanted to answer. I think that it is a perfect example. And I want to, be clear. We are not here in the business of fundraising for higher ed. We are now, as UNHCR, in the business of building partnerships with the right partners who can scale, who deliver quality, who are global, right? All of the things that we need in order to make huge impact. And so that's not to say that every single local institution, local partner doesn't have an enormously important role to play, but the bigger the partnership, the bigger the impact. And we have many, many private sector partners, so big corporations, small businesses, foundations, etc., who are incredibly, shockingly committed to higher education. And I'm hoping that this is yet another fantastic example of how corporations and, academia, private sector can collaborate to make an even bigger impression, a bigger impact, because we know University of the People has been making access possible for refugees and displaced learners for many years. This is another iteration of how powerful University of the People and UNHCR can be in making new partnerships that bring additional types of value, right? So this partnership with IBM is an additional type of value. And many other corporations can take note of that and say, oh, of course, we have our own internal training program or professional development suite or, whatever it is. And we can tweak it and we can adjust it and we can learn how to make it suitable or applicable and fit for purpose for refugee students. This is just one wonderful example. And I'm just hoping that it begins to make people think, how can I get involved? How can I, sign up to be part of the 15 by 30 target, be part of the Each One Take One initiative and learn from what University of the People and UNHCR are doing here.
And Shai, what is your message both to potential learners who might be watching this and getting excited that they could actually improve their lives for free? What's your message to the learners? And then what are your message to some of the stakeholders that Manal just pointed out that could really make a difference in propelling programs like this and others forward much faster?
I think that to students in general and refugees in particular, if you have an opportunity for higher education, it will probably change your life if you grab it and use it right. So you have the opportunity, grab it, and don't give up. Sometimes it's hard. Life stands in the way. You have family, you have other things. You are a refugee. There are a lot of difficulties. Try to overcome them. Try to learn in spite of the difficulties, because if you make it and get a great job, your life, your family life, your community life will be changed. So do it. That's the key for a better future. And I think that what we're doing should be done by others. More than serving the students that we serve, we're building a model that others can replicate, showing that higher education can be accessible, affordable, with the right quality. We haven't invented anything. We just grabbed everything that was out there to make a great university, and I hope that others will do the same. But I think that beyond that, I hope that many more organizations will join a UNHCR effort to help refugees, because refugees is not the refugee problem, it's our problem. And if we don't save the refugee issues of the world, our world is not going to be a good place to live in. And the refugees are not going away. They are staying, they are growing. We have to solve their issues, because we need to solve it for them and for ourselves. Not only because it is a basic right that we should give them the opportunity, but it is our future as much as their future.
Yeah, and you've said it before, Shai, but in a lot of ways, this partnership is a reminder that education is not a luxury as you say, it's a human right. And with the right collaboration, with the right people at the table, we can bring its transformational power to the students who need it the most. And so thank you, Shai. Thank you, Manal, for this conversation. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you to everybody out there watching this. There are obviously a lot of specifics about how you can sign up, how you can get involved. So please take a look at all of the specifics that will be below this video. And certainly we all encourage you to learn more, share this conversation, and truly be part of expanding access to education for those who need it the most. So thank you again, and hopefully big things ahead.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Manal, for the great work you're doing. Thanks.
Thanks, Shai. It's been a pleasure.